All right, let's jump right in. I want you to imagine a bat, but with the face of a fox, and a wingspan that's wider than you are tall. No, this isn't something out of a movie. It's a real animal. And trust me, its story is way more complex, and frankly, more surprising than you could ever guess. So, let's get into it.
Okay, so the name Flying Fox. You can totally see where they got it from, right? That face with the big eyes and the pointy snout is undeniably foxy. But is that where the comparison ends? Are we really just looking at a fox that somehow grew wings? Or is the truth a whole lot weirder?
And this is where things get really interesting. See, flying foxes are what we call megabats, and they basically break every rule you think you know about bats. The tiny bats you see flitting around at night, the microbats, flying foxes are pretty much their polar opposite. They don't use sonar, they navigate with those big eyes, they're not chasing insects, they're total fruit eaters. They even have an extra claw. It's like they're a completely different kind of animal that just happens to wear a bat costume.
So, now that we've established they're not your average bat, let's really dig into just how mega these megabats can be. And believe me, when we say scale, we mean it.
Get this, 1.5 meters. That's a 5-foot wingspan. Seriously, just take a second and picture that. We're not talking about a little creature fluttering by a porch light. We're talking about an animal that would cast a serious, imposing shadow flying over your head.
And their anatomy is so unique, it's baked right into their scientific name, Pteropus. That's just ancient Greek for wing foot. And honestly, what a perfect description, right? It's an animal whose hands have literally evolved into these huge, incredible leathery wings.
But their incredible size is really just the start of the story. What's truly remarkable is what's going on inside their heads. These are unbelievably intelligent and highly social creatures.
This one fact just floors me. In a study, scientists taught flying foxes to pull a lever to get a juice reward. Pretty cool. But here's the wild part. Almost 4 years later, they still remembered how to do it. That's an incredible long-term memory. And it all starts to make sense when you learn they have one of the largest brain-to-body ratios of any bat, putting them on par with a dog.
And all that brain power fuels a super complex social life. They live in these massive colonies called camps, which are basically bustling, noisy cities of tens of thousands of bats. Inside these camps, they have elaborate mating rituals, strong family bonds. I mean, the pups stay with their mothers for up to a full year. And they can live for a surprisingly long time, over 30 years in some cases. It's a whole society up there in the trees.
So you have these huge, smart, social animals, but our relationship with them, well, it's complicated, to say the least. It's a relationship often defined by fear and conflict, and it has had absolutely devastating consequences for them.
Okay, let's just talk about the elephant in the room, diseases. And yes, it is true, flying foxes can carry some serious viruses. But, and this is a really, really important but, it is almost never a direct bat-to-human transmission. There's usually a middleman. For Hendra virus, it's horses. For Nipah virus, it can be contaminated fruit sap. So while the risk is there, the pathway is indirect and a lot more complex than you might think.
Now, you take that fear of disease and you combine it with their love of fruit, and you get a direct conflict with farmers. In some places, they're legally classified as vermin, which means they have very few protections. They're just seen as a threat to commercial fruit orchards.
And the consequences of this conflict can be just devastating. Take Mauritius, for example. The government there sanctioned a cull that wiped out over 40,000 flying foxes in just 2 years. That was nearly half of their entire population. Gone.
So that's the case against them, right? They're pests, they carry diseases, but what if that's not the whole story? What if, by looking at them only that way, we're completely missing their true purpose?
The system is actually really simple, but brilliant. A flying fox eats some fruit, it flies for miles and miles, and then, well, it spreads the seeds. But here's the magic. That trip through the bat's gut actually helps the seeds sprout more effectively. And because they travel so far, they aren't just planting a few trees, they're planting whole new patches of forest, regenerating lost wilderness. They are nature's gardeners.
And they're not just spreading seeds, they are vital pollinators too. Their work is absolutely crucial for a whole host of plants, including ones that are really important to us economically. For example, without flying foxes, the multi-billion-dollar durian fruit industry would be in very, very serious trouble.
So we have this one creature that is both a source of intense conflict and a vital ecological partner. But this fragile coexistence that we have, well, it's now facing an existential crisis.
I mean, this chart is just a huge warning sign. Of the 62 known species of flying fox, nearly half are threatened with extinction. You add up the vulnerable, endangered, and critically endangered categories, and you are looking at a massive crisis. And that little slice at the bottom, that's the 7% of species we've already lost forever.
So what's causing all this? Well, it's a perfect storm. They're being overhunted. Their forests are being cut down. Climate change is causing heat waves so extreme that thousands can literally just die and fall from the sky. It's a relentless assault coming at them from every single side.
And that brings us to the ultimate paradox of the flying fox. While in some parts of the world they're being killed off as pests, in other places, like the Solomon Islands, their teeth are so valuable they're used as actual currency. Just think about that for a second. A pest in one place is treasure in another.
So it all comes down to this. This single animal is a gardener, a pest, a potential threat, a cultural symbol, and even a form of money. It is feared and revered, it's essential, and it's endangered. So the question isn't just what is their true value. The real question is, how do we choose to value them? Because that answer is going to determine their entire future.